That's Twisted.
This is Mark McNease in New York City with my co-host
Rick Rose in Shreveport, Louisiana.
And you're listening to The Twist. Welcome to The Twist, everybody, America's only clothing optional podcast. It's super rainy here, Rick. It's been raining this is definitely the second day. I don't know what's going on there, but it's just damp and rainy and like funky spring-like here in New York City.
Well, good morning. I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana. Just got back from Wisconsin, where I spent the week celebrating my mom's birthday, which we talked about and sang to her last week. Is that why you're in such a damp mood this morning? Before we started the show, you announced you weren't having a great morning. Is it the weather? Because sometimes that matters.
Well, it's the weather, and then it's I just woke up this morning and I had to run to the men. What do you? However you say it politely. I had to go to the bathroom a bunch of times, and that's not normal. And then my body is tired. I'm a cashier now, which I like very much. I love doing it, but it's hard. It's hard because my shifts are. Was that your phone?
Yeah, I just got a little message from someone.
My shifts are 6 hours, and they work you. It's not like up and down. I'm standing for 6 hours and bagging, and so it feels really good because I love physical exertion. It's good for you, and it feels good when I leave my job shift. I feel like, wow, I did some stuff, but it's very physically tiring. I have to get used to it because my back hurts. It makes my back hurt because you're not standing straight up. You're leaning over. I'm leaning over doing groceries for 6 hours.
Well, and retail is the hardest job there is, they say, because you can never have the right shoes. The floor is never comfortable.
I thought coal mining was the hardest, most American job you could possibly have.
Remember Charles from Los Angeles, my partner then? He had to be on his feet all the time. He worked retail, at all the big stores, Magnet, Christian Dior, all that good stuff.
I think we hit on this last week in this country where nobody gives a shit that 10,000 retail clerks are losing their jobs, but you throw up a lily white coal miner with some coal on his face, and he's got that whole Dust Bowl vibe going, and everybody's like, oh my, the poor coal miners. There's 5,000 of them left in this country, so whatever.
It's crazy. It was going to be one of my red lines, which we'll get to in a minute. Mark and I like to do that on the show, bring you guys the top news stories. But this one kind of ties in with what I said, working retail and coal miners. Nordstrom is actually selling these new jeans. I don't know if you saw, for $425. They're covered in fake
got mud on them. Yeah.
Cool. Isn't that stupid?
It's weird. Yeah, it's weird.
Taking it beyond
talk about appropriation, man.
Oh my God,
think of all terrible. The poor people they're appropriating.
I don't understand it, but we've got some stuff going on, Mark. We're sponsored by a couple people, and
you go first this time. I'm always going first. You go first. Tell us.
So the month of April, we have a couple great sponsors for our show. We want to shout out to Shreveport Regional Arts Center down here in Shreveport. It's more than just Shreveport. It covers Northwest Louisiana. You go to shrevearts.org for all things arts related. And the big thing going on here right now is the South's largest student arts festival. It's called Art Break. 50 hands-on art exhibits or art activities, 100 school exhibit booths, 100 performances by students, 2,500 pieces of art by students. It's happening April 28th through the 30th at the beautiful Shreveport Convention Center. Check out shrevearts.org.
Check it out. And also, while you're online, take a look at retirefabulously.com, run by Dave Hughes. I love his columns. He now is a blogger for U.S. News and World Report. And I've just loved his columns for a long time because I'm at that point in life where sort of phasing out the, at least the 9 to 5. I mean, my cashier stuff is part-time, which is another thing I really like about it. But anyways, it's he writes really good columns that give you information about retiring, about what it's like to be retired, about what it's like to plan for retirement. So go there, retirefabulously.com.
That's crazy. I want to shout out, too, this morning to a gentleman that came out. Did you see the big story? This Canadian, this Canadian athlete, he's a pole vaulter. I think he's holding the world record right now. Shout out to him. It came out on his Facebook page yesterday. It's happening everywhere.
Is that the one that you sent me said looks like a penis?
No, that I just sent you the Mark. We can't go there. Don't you dare say it. No, Shawn Barber is the gentleman. He does not look like a penis. And I got to just tell you, your New York Post, I hope you don't read it. They're fucking all over the board about Alex Hernandez before he's even buried. Well, actually, he's buried now in Connecticut, but saying that he was gay and
Yeah, that's weird.
dating
It's like, what difference
Kyle
does it make?
Kennedy, wanted to share a cell with him, and one of the 3 suicide notes was left for him. Who the fuck cares?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like that has
Anyway,
anything to
just-
do with it. But
Crazy.
speaking of Canada, I mean, we're all, we just connect so much with these things. I don't know what's going on with Trump, and these tariffs. Like, what's he got against Canada except that Trudeau is probably a lot more popular and much hotter. So I don't know what this shit is with Canada, but we sell them a lot of stuff, so this could get ugly.
It could get ugly. I was reading a story too. I love this. It was basically saying, what would American dining look like if we didn't allow immigrants into our country and we got rid of all the different ethnic foods we have in our country? It's crazy. I don't know what it's like. If you're not a white male American, you're just not welcome in this country. And
your jobs don't matter because you probably are a retailer. You probably work at Macy's and you lost your job and you're a person of color. Nobody cares.
It's crazy.
Remind me next Wednesday, by the way, don't let me forget. It is my husband Frank Murray's birthday next Wednesday.
Happy birthday. We'll sing to him. Yes.
We will. And I'm taking him someplace fabulous Monday and Tuesday. So I'll talk all about it. But don't let me forget because I got those I'm losing my brain cells and I forget this shit. So help me.
I'll send you a big message. Yeah, I'll definitely send you a note. All right. What we got? We got some headlines coming up. We're going to have a couple hot topics. I'm going to have some final thoughts on Lady Gaga making the news. And it's going to be pretty deep. And then Mark's going to end the show with a great quote. And we'll bid you all adieu. And thank you for joining us this morning, guys.
Okay, so here we go with the Weekly Readlines.
The Weekly Readlines.
This I just saw this morning. In New York City, there's in the Village, there's a street called Gay Street. I don't, it was just called that for a long time because it used to not mean what it means now. But anyway, so somebody decided to send a message to all the homosexuals in the Village and started chaining up a big cross, like chained it to a fence. And the person would move it every day. I don't know how they had never found out who was doing it, but it was definitely not a message of love. So one of the neighbor ladies decided what better way to deal with this, because they couldn't get the authorities to come and take this thing away. They painted it rainbow colors. So now you got this giant rainbow cross chained to a fence on Gay Street. I love it.
I saw that. I used to love Gay Street. Tattoo of Packers Aaron Rodgers and jockstrap has homophobes losing their minds. This is a story Mark and I found after the show last week, so I want to bring it to your attention. That's right. There was a tattoo artist in Denver, Colorado. She enraged a group of homophobic trolls onto her website and also on her social media. They're just enraged because she did this tattoo of Green Bay Packer Aaron Rodgers football jersey and jockstrap. And just crazy. But I
thought it was hot.
It was interesting. But also in tattoo news, here's another one. Simpson superfan gets arm inked with 52 Homer tattoos. That's right. He went in, 32-year-old restaurant manager named Ricky Viner, and he had his whole arm done, Mark, a sleeve of Homer tattoos. Not to be outdone, though. There's this 52-year-old Homer.
Like
Simpson.
Homer Simpson. Okay, not like the Greek philosopher. Okay.
No, like Homer Simpson. But he's not to be outdone because apparently there's a 52-year-old Australian named Michael Baxter who has 203 different Simpson tattoos on his back.
That's creepy. That's disgusting. I like the jock strap thing.
Tattoos.
Well, and I have 7 tattoos, so I don't think tattoos are disgusting. I just would like 52 Simpson whatever he's got. It's crazy. Here's a sad one, but significant. The Javier Houli, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He was the French police officer who was killed in Paris the other day, a couple days ago, by a crazed jihadist. He was gay, and his husband gave a eulogy, and they had a memorial. It was very, very touching. And I hope that matters to some people. The fact that we get killed in these attacks too, and he was a police officer. And anyways, because Marine Le Pen, this chick who could be the next president, she already has committed herself to eliminating marriage equality in France. Like, she's going to bring back civil unions. I don't know that she can unilaterally do it. I doubt it. But anyways, fuck her. This man lost his life. He was a gay police officer. He lost his life. And she's going to come along. And all these people who fucking treat our marriages like shit and eliminate marriage equality. So, anyways, that's another reason it's very important to me to bring it up.
But I can't go on with her. I mean, she's apparently made statements that you can't wear beanies if you're Jewish, and you can't wear saris, and you can't wear burqas, and you can't wear this and that. She's crazy.
And Trump loves her. At least he did. But he's toning it down now, because now he's into NATO and the EU. He's okay, whatever. But so now he's not praising her quite so loudly.
Last week we talked about the stripping back of the Elmo doll. Someone had it actually skinned it to show what was inside. Really gross. Well, I found one. This is a Furby. Remember the Furbies from the 90s, Mark?
I'll pretend that I do. Go ahead.
Oh, these little Furbies. Well, you can go to this hydraulic press site. It's I think it's called Hydraulic Press Channel on YouTube. You know, I was like one of our red lines to be about a YouTube channel, and you can
of course
watch something. Yes, but this Finnish factory owner actually has this website or this YouTube channel called Hydraulic Press Channel, and he takes things. In this case, it's the 1990 Furby doll, and he presses it with hydraulic press, and you see what happens. This was a talkative little doll, only up until the point it was crushed. You know who wins this battle, and it ain't the Furby.
Oh,
it's
do.
Definitely
That's
hydraulic
so sad,
press.
Though.
It's I know it might make you feel better today.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we're getting off on other people's suffering helps.
Yeah, right. Poor Furby.
There was a 12-year-old who made an 800-mile drive across Australia. Did you see that?
No. Oh, was this to go to McDonald's with his sister?
Well, the police officers near the Australian mining town of Broken Hill, I like that, it's like Brokeback, stopped a sport utility vehicle last Saturday that was being driven by a 12-year-old boy who had been on the road in the middle of nowhere driving alone for 800 miles.
That's crazy.
That was only a third of the way to his chosen destination on the other side of the country. I just thought that was interesting. 12 years old and went 800 miles before anybody noticed.
That's crazy. That's not the story, though, where he took his sister to get a burger. Was that same story? No,
I hope not, because I didn't read that far, and you're putting me on the spot here.
No, it might not be, but there was a story like that this year.
No, this was a kid alone.
Across the outback.
Yeah.
Speaking of burgers, Burger King came out with a very creative 15-second spot about a week ago. Well, it kind of backfired on them. Did you hear about this commercial, Mark?
No, go ahead, fill me in.
So what it is, it's really creative for those of us who have written commercials and been in this kind of world in the communication arts. This guy who's dressed in his Burger King outfit holds up a Big Mac, or not a Big Mac, a Whopper, and he says, "Hey guys, you know what this is? This is a Whopper." And then he says, "You want to know more? Hey Siri, what's in a Whopper?" And then people's phones would go off at their home, their smartphones would go off, and it would pull up the Wikipedia thing for what a Whopper is, and it would describe what a Whopper is. Very creative. Taking it from the screen into people's living rooms. People got upset, but so upset that people actually went to Wikipedia, because of course it's, Wikipedia isn't always fact-based. People can go and post. So at first, when this ad came out, it would trigger the Wikipedia account and tell what a Whopper was. But now people add things like the worst hamburger product, made with cyanide. People just posted all this stuff to Wikipedia. So the ad was running until they pulled it off the air. And it would guide people to Wikipedia, which would say, "You're eating a piece of lead. You're eating shit. This is horrible." Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy, funny. And it's so complicated that I just... Okay, I know. I mean, I understand it, sort of. But it was really complicated. It's like I kind of don't even know what you were talking about. But it is fascinating.
Oh, well, here's what it is, Mark. The commercial triggered your smartphone, because the smartphone's sitting in the living room wherever you're watching your TV.
Would hear him say, "Hey Siri, what's a Whopper?" And then it would go online, and it would look stuff up, and okay.
Yeah, and then people started posting weird things on what it was looking up, so it never gave you an accurate answer. Kind of took the commercial off the air.
Oh, okay. Now I get it.
Now you get it.
Flying cars are coming. Did you see that?
Big headlines.
A number of startups in the aerospace industry are working on flying cars and hope to have one out by 2020. Count me out. I won't even use. Frank uses the our Prius V. If you put it on autopilot, it'll slow down if there's a car in front of you, and it'll stop and stuff. I don't trust it to do that, because a couple of times it didn't happen. I said, "I'm never letting a car I'm never surrendering my life to a car. I'm just not. And a flying car, hell no.
Especially in New York City. Here's a headline that, I always like to have a Chinese headline. I don't know why, but this one is, isn't that funny?
You do speak it, by the way. I just want people to know you're not making fun of the language. You speak it.
No,
I don't know what you said, but go ahead.
No, this is really what the headline said. Drunk driver tries to beat breathalyzer test by eating grass on the roadside. There's a great video clip out with it, too. It's on Shanghaiist is the name of the website. After encountering a police checkpoint late on Monday night in Yiwu, one drunk driver came up with a creative way of getting out of failing a breathalyzer test. He ran 100 meters from the checkpoint. He saw it in the distance, pulled his car over, sat on the ground, and started eating the grass on the hill until the cops came. Because he was trying to get the smell of alcohol off his breath. He says, "I wasn't driving, and I wasn't drinking. I'm just here on the roadside eating grass." That's so funny. I'm glad you think it's funny because it is funny.
It is funny. Now, Cherokee.
Oh my God!
Cherokee Nation sues firms and retailers for flooding their communities with opioids. Good for them. I'm not really going to go into it, but that's the headline, and I think it's great because they this has come up before. You got these poor black kids in urban areas and anywhere else going to prison for decades because they sell a little piece of crack. But then you got the pharmaceutical companies and these doctors flooding communities with opioids and making shitloads of money and getting away with it because they've got licenses and all this other nonsense. So anyways, Cherokee Nation is saying we're going to sue your asses, and let's hope they succeed.
Big news in the beverage world. Dunkin' Donuts.
Glug, 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 glug. Glug, glug, glug.
No more coffee colada for Dunkin' Donuts fans. And they said it's basically the most stupid drink they've ever created. They admitted it. They're coming out now with a frozen coffee because they said coffee colada it just isn't good. It packed 540 calories, 860 when you added cream to it, 102 grams of sugar.
Oh my God.
And I know. And anyway, it's gone off the market, I think, this week. In the meantime, the other big news, of course, if you saw, and I'm sure you did, about the unicorn.
The unicorn. I was going to say that. That is so wild that you brought that up because I don't even know what it was, but it was all over Facebook. Tell us.
Well, the reason it was over Facebook, these poor baristas that were making it for Starbucks. It was a limited run at Starbucks. It was a unicorn frappuccino. It, like these baristas were posting and tweeting and all that stuff, and they were basically saying, quote, "I'm covered in unicorn blood." It's an uncaffeinated drink that is based with mango syrup, sour blue drizzle in the middle of vanilla whipped cream topping and all that stuff. But they said it was such a mess. One guy that worked at a Starbucks or still does this. I got to stop making these. My hands are completely sticky. I have unicorn crap all in my hair and on my nose. I have never been so stressed out in my entire life. So they're not selling them anymore. Isn't that crazy?
It is, and I identify with the sticky stuff because now that I've been doing the groceries, the cashiering, you get sticky stuff on your hands. Like the worst are the cut up fruit things, which I've bought. The cantaloupe or pineapple, whatever, you get in little plastic containers. So sticky and so unfun, Anyways, I can't imagine unicorn juice. Now there's an even better reason to steal that hotel bathrobe, which I've never done. But I mean, what a fun, designers now are catching on to the fact that you can donate your robes your designer robes to a high-end hotel. And it's a good advertising marketing strategy. Some guy, Maxwell Young, he's whatever he does. He was staying at the Hotel Palomar in Northwest Washington, and he found their bathrobe was like a zebra print by this designer, and he put it on Instagram, of course, and it was a huge hit. And there you go, sales rocketed. So steal the robes, put the pictures on Facebook, and help these folks out. But get a piece.
Wow. It's very interesting because, it's like using bathtubs in a hotel. I've never used the robes. I've never used the bathtubs because I just don't trust they're clean enough.
How do you bathe?
Well, I get in there and shower, but I don't draw bubble bath.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant you didn't take a bath.
No, this is sad news in the animal world. I usually like to cover an animal story too. Have you seen this one? This poor polar bear, same-sex lover at SeaWorld. They took the same-sex partner away and to go breed. Her name was Snowflake. She left SeaWorld to go to breed some little polar bears in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And her lover, Szenia, Xenia or something, was left behind in SeaWorld and died of a broken heart. PETA's all over it. They're claiming she died of a broken heart because her lesbian lover was taken away from her. They were together 20 years. It's a sad story. She was taken off to the Pittsburgh Zoo in order to breed some more miserable little polar bears. You know, the polar bears aren't miserable, but the treatment is. And of course, the zookeepers are like, "Oh, that's not what happened." Anyway,
that is very sad.
Right, broke my heart. It really did. And they show one of her last pictures playing with this toy like animal thing. It's person or whatever it is, but sad story. God rest her soul.
Sad. I have two left. How many do you have?
I got two. If you say you got two, I got three. If you say you got four, I got five, but I'm going to match
I got two. My next to the last is Zeke Thomas, who's the son of Isaiah Thomas, NBA legend. Finally came out and talked about having been raped. He's gay, and he's but a couple years ago he was drugged and raped by somebody in Chicago, and had kept it a secret, and it just kind of really fucked him up. But now he's talking about it, and he's talking about the importance of airing these things within the queer community. And I think it's great, and I've thought this for a long time, because domestic violence is also another big issue that we don't really talk about. Like in the straight world or the non-queer world, non-gay world, they don't really think about men, abusing other men or women abusing other women. But it happens, and domestic violence is a serious issue in our communities. And we don't talk about it, and I think we should. And anyway, same thing with rape. We just, but that's a whole nother thing that I'm not going to get into, because I hate prison bitch jokes. I've always hated them. Yeah. When I see them on sitcoms, I've seen them too many times to count. Rape, a man being raped is not a joke. It's not funny. It doesn't mean he's weak. Anyways, yeah. So let's talk about it. Let's put it out there, and let's deal with it.
Well, we're going to talk about it a little later in the show, because one of my topics actually has to do with this new coined phrase called what's it called? Like a steel. What's the name of that jet? STEALTH. Stealth. It's called stealthy, and we're going to get into it. Okay. It's a form of rape, Mark, so it's interesting because we're always on the same page, even though we don't compare notes beforehand. Also, I really do think this whole thing with Aaron Hernandez. I said Alex earlier, but it's Aaron Hernandez. I think that had a lot to this whole rumor of him asking to be with his, quote, gay lover in jail in the same cell. I think that has to do with the way we've romanticized gay sex in prison, or like you're talking about, even talk about it, but there's something that, they use it as jokes, but they also use it as homoerotica, I just, I have a big problem with it. Anyway, my story, two of them to go here.
Wait a minute, hang on. You broke up. Start over. Go ahead, start over.
Technical error. That's what happens when you cut the interns out of the budget, Mark.
Yeah, can't afford them. Okay. Gotta go. Just like Trump. Again. I mean, there's no money in the budget. Okay. Go on.
Why is Walmart trying to make the crotilla the new cronut? Remember, cronut was that popular donut croissant mix. Now they have all these other mixes. Walmart literally is coming out with this thing called the crotilla. It's a flaky food, which is a combination of flour tortillas and crescent rolls. According to a press release from Walmart, the crotilla is, quote, destined to be the hottest mashup since tweens started asking for labradoodles. I love that quote.
I do.
It's funny.
I don't want one. I never had a cronut. I never had a cronut. And it was so funny. The shop that started the cronut thing in New York City, like 2 months later, they were shut down for rat droppings and shit.
Are you serious?
Yeah, their store was like shut down for health violations because they had rodents. Yummy. My last one, and it is going to give me a chance to tie into my what I was going to be my topic, but isn't. Oh God, my chair just fell. That's creepy. So, anyways, Trump, our president, yeah, he won. I get it. He's still an abomination. But he gave this rambling interview to the AP, and I was reading a cogent column saying any other president would have been finished after this interview because it's rambling and incoherent, because he is, even though 96%, 98% of his voters said they would vote for him again. Whatever, I don't care. I'm done with those people. Not with those people, I don't mean it that way, but you know what I mean? It's like, you can't, it's just over. When 98% of his voters said they think he's doing a good job, they would vote for him again, the conversation ends. It just ends, because you can't have a back and forth with that. And I wouldn't even try. But so he boasted in this AP interview that he had his he's always talking about everything bigger and better. I think the man has a penis issue. I really truly do. But anyways, he said he went on Chris Wallace's show last fall, and he said it had 9.2 million people. It's the highest they've ever had. And at the same time, he talked about Face the Nation and crappy that what. Anyways, here's the bottom line. He said he had the highest ratings since 9/11. Now, imagine anyone else. Oh, yeah. He said his ratings were the highest since 9/11, meaning, the coverage of the Twin Towers falling down and 3,000 plus people being murdered in broad daylight on television, that his ratings were higher than that, or almost as high as that. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And I wanted to segue into I just wanted to mention the fact that people who are protesting this president and his policies, and we're not sore losers. I've seen that on Facebook. I saw it right after the election, and I still see it. There are people who are they think that the protesters should not be protesting, as if. And I wanted to say to this person, is that what you thought about the Tea Party? Did you have an issue when the Tea Party was protesting?
Sting him. That's good.
The AC. I didn't say it, but that's what I want to know. Like, if you have an issue with protesters protesting the Trump administration, did you have that issue when it was the Tea Party? Did you have that issue when the Republicans spent 8 years obstructing everything that President Obama tried to do? Did you have an issue then, or is this just some moral relevancy, which is what I believe? I know it is, because they didn't have an issue with it. I didn't see any of these people complaining when the Tea Party was doing their shit, screaming at the town halls. So if this is a democracy, and participating in it by protesting and being active does not make you a sore loser. It makes you somebody who cares, and Trump, he's horrible. I mean, I live in this city. I saw the World Trade Center crumble. And to compare your fucking TV ratings to that, no. He's the president. He won the election. I get it. But I'm not a sore loser by saying this man is an abomination. There's an acceptable word for it.
From the Obama nation to the abomination. So yeah. I really, when you...
I like that, Rick. That is thinking on your feet. No, I love it.
I hear it now. Yeah, well, I'm on my ass right now. Just sitting down, drinking some tea, listening to you talk, because it really put a pit in my stomach. Very disgusting to make that analogy. Anyway, we'll end with the final, you know what I'm saying, final red line for the day, guys. I like this one, bringing it back to New York, a beautiful city that rebirthed itself and came back after that horrible tragedy. It's a great story, Mark, because it reminds me of you and, where you live and how we live in smaller spaces in New York and all that stuff. But the headline read, "Pigeon makes nest in New York woman's pasta strainer." Have you seen this story?
No.
Well, she arrived home. She left for 2 months on her trip. When she came home, she had a new roommate. It was a pigeon nesting in her pasta strainer. It had gotten through her window. She'd since named the bird Adelaide. She created an Instagram page for it. That's how I found out about it.
Like the singer? Like the British singer?
Roman.
Adelaide?
Yeah. Adelaide. No,
oh, okay.
Adelaide. And anyway, yeah, it's a cute story. This pigeon had snuck through the window, had found the strainer in her sink, and nested in it, and she's hatching eggs in it. And she allows the daddy to come through the window and visit while the babies are being born. Nice. And she's documenting this all on her Instagram page. It's a great story. Anyway, the end of our red lines, guys. Thanks for listening. Twist. Sure.
Now go on.
I'm going to jump in with my
get us into something big.
Because, no, it's big. I mean, it's the subject is stealthing. And it's really interesting. So stealthing is the practice, they put a name to it, where you're in the middle of sex using a condom, which in safe sex, this is something we want to be doing. And this isn't true. Stealthing is actually a violation, and they're calling it the new date rape, if you will, a new type of rape. Because whether it's straight sex or same-sex sex, you're wearing your condom in the middle of it, you pull it off, and you continue forward with the action. And usually the partner's so into the moment that they don't necessarily resist, or they don't even know what's going on. And it's called stealthing. It's the same as what was once called barebacking, but you don't start with the agreement that we're going to bareback, which basically is unsafe anal sex, but you go into it and then you stealth. And there's an advocate that's out there that's arguing that stealthing is an act of gender-based violence and a violation of a number of civil and criminal laws. And he says it's very different than rape and other things, that it has to be looked at that way. And he's writing some law that really will prevent this and charge people, with the practice. It's a horrible thing, and I just am bringing it up because you think you've seen it all, and then you see something like this. It's horrible. But you can Google it, and you can read about this guy's quest. His name is Alexandra Brodsky. He wrote for the Columbia Journal of Gender and Law about this practice. Horrible, Mark. It
is terrible, and I can see how you wouldn't notice, especially the gay folks.
Yeah. It's bad. And then reading on to that, I was also reading a piece by a woman named Rebecca Needy, and she said, because you talked last week, and I love this, and this is just my subject, it's just kind of gay news and different twists and angles on it. You had mentioned last week about creating queer spaces and how they've kind of gone away, and you referred to an article by a lesbian that said, gone are the days when you go into a New York neighborhood and you see an LGBT bar where you go in and you're comfortable, because coming far and few between, because of apps, like Tinder and Grindr and all that. Well, this woman was basically talking about how wonderful it was. She went up to Palm Springs, California. She attended the Down the Shore weekend, which also goes along with this newer party called Crave Spring Break that happened at the same time in Palm Springs. Large gathering of lesbians, 20,000 queer women identified folks from across the globe coming together. And she said her space was violated, though, because these other women, some of these women were groping openly and grabbing boobs and grabbing asses and tapping twats or whatever they were doing. And she said it's just so sad to see that those safe spaces are going and these women are violating it. And really, she basically made it a gender issue. She said they're adopting what is typically male behavior and saying it's okay to do this to one another.
Well, I was going to say,
very interesting angle.
We could call it pulling a Trump. They're pulling a Trump. That's a new phrase. But it's, I mean, really I understand where she's coming from. It's terrible. And it's just, I didn't read it in depth. I thought there was something about going to like a gay bar or something like that. And it's like a really hyper masculine space, but it's also a really white space. I wonder, because a lot of, in the gay community, it's historically been known for being a very white, like these spaces that we think are fabulous for gay men are a lot of times they're very white.
Yeah.
If you're a person, if you're a gay man of color, you don't necessarily feel welcome there. So.
No, it's very true. It's just a different angle and something to consider. I'm sure it's out there. I'm not sure how I feel about identifying that as basically a male trait, but I think historically it has been. In both of these cases, stealthing or taking advantage of a queer safe space is a form of sexual abuse, and these are things we need to look at. And then lastly, tying in with my comments on the subject, is the whole thing that unfolded on Survivor Market. It happened.
Yeah.
We've all seen the story probably now, and I know you have thoughts on it too. Zeke Smith, who's transgender male, is one of the people on there, and another person that's on there is a gay rights attorney, and he basicender outed Zeke as a transgender male. Zeke said, I never desired to be the first, transgender person on Survivor, and this guy outed him by saying it's a weakness because he hid it from all of you, my fellow contestants. And I guess I don't watch the show, but we all kind of know there's this tribal thing that happens at the end, and one is voted off. Well, no one was voted off on this one. He simply walked away, the guy that outed Zeke Smith, and he walked back to his job and lost his job apparently because the law firm is known to defend. But my comment is this: a very powerful quote from Zeke Smith after it all ended. They say, of course, that he worked when the editing of the show happened. He worked together along with CBS, along with GLAAD's transgender media program, to put together the way the story would be told. I'm not so sure I feel that really happened. I'm guessing these people all signed away their rights, so to speak, and allow the show to manipulate the story they want. And he's basically saying very dangerous to have had this happen because, and he refers to the fact, last year, what was it? 7 trans people, all of them trans women of color, when you speak of, color, have been murdered in 2017. And that's just the victims that we know about. In 2016, at least 27 trans people were killed. And how dangerous it is. It's not like outing a gay person. When you out a trans person, there's other issues involved. So I thought this powerful thing that unfolded across the American screens. And I am disgusted by CBS, quite frankly.
Yeah, and I think it's terrible on a bunch of levels. It's, first of all, I don't think that, why I don't want to assume that somebody is not out. Like, if you're a transgender man or transgender woman, well, this has come up a bunch of times with us. And I mentioned in Hawaii, in the indigenous Hawaiian culture, there is no gender.
Right.
So, like, if I were a transgender, what we are calling a transgender man, at some point I would say, I'm really tired of being called transgender. I'm a man. That's what I am. Now, you can call me whatever you need to call me, but I'm a man. And so I don't necessarily look at this as like Zeke as being, like having some hidden thing. He's living as a man. That's who he is and what he is. So this whole idea that I'm going to out him is fucked up. And, like, it's just bullshit. But that's, anyways. And it is dangerous because people get murdered. People get killed. And it's none of your goddamn business. It's not your place to out me in any respect. I'm an atheist. What if somebody decided to say, oh, don't go to that cash register. He's an atheist.
It's so very true. That's so true.
It doesn't make any sense, but you know what I'm saying?
Oh, I do.
It's nobody's business to say shit about anybody. Just mind your so.
And I was, my whole thing by looking at these 3 separate things. Last week we talked about bisexuality, and my friend, by the way, who I was referring to, listened to the show, and it made him really embrace the term queer this week. He goes, Rick, I don't want to say anymore that I'm bisexual because I don't want to hear you say you're homosexual, or our friends Ken and Courtney saying they're heterosexual. We were all together last night, and he basically said, I'm queer. I'm part of a queer nation. I'm part of, quote, nation. Anyway, it's interesting as we live into our 50s and 60s together, Mark, aging to perfection, to use your quote from your LGBT SR website. I think it's amazing because we're seeing all these things from gender identification to, I remember 5 years ago we said we're going to understand our trans friends better. And now today we talk, very much about them understanding them and understand, but all the facets of that rainbow and the things that we never even would have looked at 30 years ago that relate to our queer nation, if you will, that are coming out, like stealthing. Who would have ever thought? Anyway, so that's what I found interesting about these stories. I know you got something to talk about.
Well, and then I got a quote. That's what's left, right? Because normally I would have gone between one of those, but so it's like my topic and the quote, right? I'm just checking.
Well,
with you.
No, I got some final thoughts. No, these
okay.
I still got to get to my Lady Gaga, dude. Okay?
Oh, that's right, Stephanie.
But you go to your topic because I know what it's about.
I know. I am, because we need to, we got to have some kind of format here. So my big topic, and it will also be my quote, is just that.
Well, Mark, let me stop you right there. We need an intern because the intern would follow the format. I'm sorry to take this to the public.
Well,
but you and I have been.
Craigslist was a bust. Should I try Grindr?
I don't want to.
The interns go on Grindr. Do they look for jobs on Grindr? Tinder? I could do Tinder.
There must be a website for interns.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'll find it.
Find this one.
There's an app for everything.
Sorry.
That's okay. Pope Francis gave a surprising TED talk in calling for a revolution of tenderness, and that's going to be I'm going to quote the guy at the end of the show. But anyways, my whole big thing, it's funny because I talked about how sore losers and this and that. We're living in a really divided country. I think that everywhere is like sometimes I think, why do we think this is such an unusual time? When have we not been divided? But we're intensely divided now, and I was heartened by seeing this Pope. And I know it's funny too, because there are people who like, if you quote the Pope, they're like, well, he's, this and that, and he doesn't believe in a women's reproduction and all this other shit. Listen, I'm just quoting one thing that I think is beautiful. And he wants us to be, to see each other tenderly instead of being so divided in everything that we do, and to stop pursuing technology so much and pursue each other's, souls and live compassionately. And that was my big topic. I mean, it's not even much of a big topic, because, sometimes I'm like grasping at, like, what the hell am I going to talk about today? But there's something there that you can take yourself and make into a big topic. You can meditate on this call to be tender with each other instead of harsh. It's not easy.
I love this Pope. No, it's not. He declared from November to last November, he declared as the year of mercy, and really talked about mercy. And my friend Jody, who I love, who's got a brother that's a Catholic priest, you didn't meet her when you and Frank were here last time, but she's a wonderful woman. They own a 100-year-old produce company here. Family came from Italy and started here in Shreveport. But we talk a lot about his mercy, and now we're talking about tenderness. I just love this guy and the message he brings. And I'm going to dig deeper into that, Mark. That is so cool. And I think it's beautiful. Simple.
Yeah, and it's I've thought for a long time that compassion, unconditional compassion, is much harder to try and live by than unconditional love, which is really vague, sort of, soft thing that you can play with. But being truly compassionate is not easy. It's like thinking of the Trump voters and being compassionate toward them, thinking of Donald Trump himself, and realizing, for me at any rate, that he was damaged. This guy's damaged goods. I mean, whatever he is as an adult, he did not have a healthy, nurturing childhood. It's not possible to have become who he is, and to try and think about that when he says these mocking, mean, cruel things that he does. And it's like, there's a very broken soul there. But doesn't mean I want him in the White House. So
no. And it's so very true. And I want to transition into my final thoughts, which kind of tie in with Pope and Trump. No, it's interesting. Mine's about Lady Gaga, and you know how I feel about her. And I just have that image, as you said that about Trump, of her the day after the election, or when he declared presidency, and she took a dump truck outside Trump Tower and she parked there, and she just silently made her statement. It wasn't about, oh, hey, cameras, look at me. I don't know if people even saw that image, but she silently protested. She can be cool about her protesting too, but she stood there and said, this is garbage and whatever. So here we go. Just years ago, Mark, like 3 years ago, after Lady Gaga's first album was such a success, then she had a very poor sophomore. Her sophomore album was not great. Our pop wasn't so good. It just kind of got weird. All these headlines I was looking at back from 2015, 2014, 2016. Lady Gaga was the biggest pop star in the world. What happened? Drowning, not waving, the slow and bitter end of Lady Gaga's career. The rise and fall of Lady Gaga. I mean, they're out there. Google it. It's crazy. Bored this way, B-O-R-E-D. The loss of Lady Gaga's relevance in pop culture. Next one from New York Post in 2014. What happened to Lady Gaga? We need to talk about Lady Gaga being a flop, BuzzFeed said. And then I juxtaposed about where she's at today. Okay, you motherfucker, you called it so fuck wrong. This woman's going to go down in history. That shakes it up and changes it. Having experienced the Super Bowl, having fed her family, worked on the Super Bowl with her, having seen this week, coming out with a new movie, as you probably saw, she's going to a remake of a country movie, The Star is Born, from Judy Garland, Barbra Streisand to Lady Gaga, Bradley Cooper directing it. She shot the scenes at Coachella, what's that called, Coachella, where she, opened 2 weeks of strong music, filling in for Beyonce. She paid tribute to Beyonce there, guys, by doing Telephone. That was her way of paying tribute to the woman that she replaced because Beyonce dropped out because of her pregnancy. She dedicated her second weekend to one of her best friends who works for her, who has cancer. She shot the scene, like I said, for Star is Born using she paid all her fans $10 to show up in country clothing, or they had to pay $10 to be in the scene wearing country clothes. She took that money and donated it to her foundation, the Born This Way Foundation, which she started with her mother. all this news coming out, everything she does, she shakes it up. Even, you mentioned earlier about you and I were talking about the word the Cure off mic earlier, but she has a new song called The Cure, and she brought it. Not even any discussion if it was just written as a thank you to her fans, but she sang it at the Music Fest last week. Or is it the first on her new album? It's a beautiful song if you haven't heard it, Mark. But I love this woman. And I found this story that was written by a guy named Guthrie Graves Fitzsimmons. He writes about faith, public policy, and pop culture, talking about the Pope. And he actually led a chapel service in New York City at Union Theological Seminary called Gospel According to Lady Gaga. And he says she is the closest thing we have to a pop pope. Because in his opinion, she's very open about her faith, as we know. She posts about her faith. She's a strong Catholic. And she represents a side of Catholicism or Christianity, if you will, that's the softer side, the loving side, the born this way side, the honoring people for who they are. She does not talk she actually champions Christian values like that are not of exclusion and discrimination, but are about empowerment, grace, and self-acceptance. I can go on and on about her. I'm not saying she's my Jesus, but it's interesting to look at what this guy points out, that she's able to, from her pulpit and using her word of music, she's able to show that kind of tender love to people, Mark, that you're describing the Pope's calling for. Even the fact that she's branded this group of monsters, these people that follow her everywhere, that dance in the halftime show. This guy goes on to contend that little monsters who flock to her concerts resemble the group of outcasts and misfits who flock to Jesus. Her music, if you listen to it, she's got a song, Merry the Night, that rings really loud for that little monster community, Born This Way, which we referenced. And then she goes on to do powerful things like co-writing and performing Till It Happens to You, winning an Oscar nomination for a song which was written for a documentary about sexual assault in college campuses. And this woman is 31 years old. Okay, you may be embarrassed, Mark, that I'm so bold about this, but I think it's a beautiful thing, and I really think her relevancy is subtle but shining. And here's to you, Lady Gaga. Look,
here's to her.
No apologies.
No, as a matter of fact, that's gonna be one of my my headline. My headlines always have three fun, catchy things. I guess you could call it clickbait, but one of them is going to be Pope Gaga. I really like that.
I like it.
Do you mind?
I do.
And then I was just I got to throw this in there because I think there's an element of misogyny, and there always has been. We just watched Feud. We have about Joan Rivers and not Joan Rivers, Joan Crawford and Betty Davis. Of course, Jessica Lange is.
Oh, I gotta see it. I heard it's so good.
Anyways, yeah. Lange is phenomenal. There's no actress like Jessica Lange. There really isn't. But anyways, my point being that women in Hollywood have been, once you get a certain age, it's all about your career's over, you're old, you're finished, and they do the same thing to women in entertainment and women in pop music. Then I don't think they do it to men. They do it to some extent, like maybe Prince is finished and this crap and that crap. But women really bear the brunt of, she's fucking 25 years and she's finished. I mean, I saw a headline about Lord's comeback album. This chick is like 20 years old.
Oh my God.
I mean, come on.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. It's offensive. Okay.
No, and I agree. I think it's a thing. I just want to say, too, a couple other things. She's apparently going to write the next James Bond film, the song for the James Bond film, they say, although apparently she turned it down. And then working with Prince William on his Heads Together project, inviting people to have conversation about mental health. She's everywhere, and she's not gone away.
Well, I want you to make sure she gets this podcast, please. Whatever you need to do.
I know. I want.
Because really, I mean, we could use a boost. So here's the end quote, folks. Because Rick, we're at the 50-minute mark. Oh my God. My end quote is from Pope Francis, not Pope Gaga, and it has to do with that same talk that he gave. Are you ready? Because we gotta here we go. Now let's breathe in. Okay. Pope Francis said, quote. Pope Francis said, "How wonderful would it be while we discover faraway planets to rediscover the needs of the brothers and sisters orbiting around us." I love that quote. Everybody, thanks.
Great imagery.
It
Great
is.
way to end the show.
It is. Thank you, Rick, and thank you, everybody, for listening to the Twist, America's only clothing optional podcast. We won't be here next week because I'm taking my husband somewhere special for his birthday, but we'll be back in 2 weeks and talk all about it. Bye.
Happy birthday, Frank. Thanks for joining us, guys. See ya. Bye.